although अभी हम आते हुए बात कर रहे थे कि if you compare ourselves to India, obviously we are lagging behind. But regardless, I think given the difference in ratio of population, I think we stack up quite well. Although I think education sector may there more needs to be done for us to be able to work better. But services, we cover everything from artificial intelligence to app development, digitization, digital transformations, anything you name it, and I think SMEs in Pakistan do cover it, and we're doing a fairly good job of it. Obviously, we always want to be up and up, but I think we're doing a good job.
Right, thank you. Encouraging words, sir. My next question is for Mr. Mudasser Abbas, the CEO at VizzWeb. So how can the SMEs and the startups in Pakistan leverage IT services to improve their overall competitiveness and efficiency, their efficacy throughout, when we talk about, like sir mentioned, global competitors like India, Bangladesh, etc.
Thank you, Nadia. Still it's a big room available. We have recently covered a lot of, you can say, the gap which we were facing in the past in SMEs. And SMEs has a big role, almost 40% you can say in the Pakistan GDP, the role of SMEs is playing. And in the last 2 years, there is a huge growth happen as well. So how they can leverage the market? It's possible through the digitizations, it's possible through adopting the technologies a bit aggressively, because in most of the time we are not doing the research, and due to the lack of financial issues, we are still copying the things, we are still adopting the things from North America and Europe, and we are not doing the researches, but we are still not aggressive. So number one thing I will say that we should be aggressive in innovations, we should aggressive in adopting the things, or we also try to allocate the budget to for the research so we can get ahead, because we can see that in the last session Mr. Shaukat Ali said that we are not doing the research and development here, which is a very big issue, and still we are copying the things from the other nations and other research institute which are international, but right. Still it's very defensive, like it's not aggressive, we are behind.
Right. Sir, with all due respect, mind me for being the devil's advocate here, but you talk about being more aggressive in our approach. Do you think it's really possible in Pakistan, where we have such a big digital inequality, digital divide, if you talk about a lot of the IT services, a major part of Pakistan still is not very connected when we talk about internet. So how can we have the BPO industry in, let's say, Dera Al-Ayar in Balochistan?
Yes, of course, the infrastructure is a very big issue. Whenever we are talking about SMEs, we are talking about 5 or 6 big cities, right? And if we want to cover this distance, it's same like आप कहते हैं कि आप फार्मिंग कर रहे हैं तो आपको कितनी बड़ी फील्ड में सीड्स लगाने चाहिए. So we are focusing on limited cities, right? Not utilizing our abilities, not utilizing our population in this field, and still not meeting the demands. From the last 2 days, I am observing that everybody is saying about the shortage of resources, right? Why that the shortage of resources is because infrastructure is not providing the opportunities to the whole nation, not to the all cities. So definitely that has a big impact as well. If we build the infrastructures, if we improve the infrastructures, we can cover this shortage of resources, and that can support to the SMEs, because this is a number 2 challenge in Pakistan, the shortage of resources. Number 1 is a financial challenge, right? So shortage of resources could be covered by infrastructures.
Right. Valid point made. Sir, my next question is from Mr. Mohammed Hussain from Boundless Technologies. So speaking maybe from practical experience, if you could share some other challenges that the SMEs, the startups face when providing IT services, and how can they be overcome? We spoke about infrastructure, we spoke about capital. What about human capital?
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम सलाम।
इसके अंदर मैं यही आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि ओबियसली बहुत सारी ट्रेनिंग्स यहाँ पे हो रही हैं और ह्यूमन रिसोर्स के हवाले से जो हमारी बेसिक्स हैं वो वहाँ पे बहुत ज़्यादा वीकनेसेस जो हैं वो मौजूद हैं। ट्रेनिंग में हमें बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है कि हम ह्यूमन रिसोर्स के ऊपर सबसे ज़्यादा इन्वेस्टमेंट करें स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द स्कूल लेवल्स, नॉट ऑन द ग्रेजुएशन और द हाई स्कूल लेवल। अगर हम इसको बिल्कुल बेस से ह्यूमन रिसोर्स को स्टार्ट करते हैं तो हमें बहुत सारे अच्छी रिसोर्स मिलने के चांसेस हैं और उनको कंटिन्यू ग्रो करें। और सेकेंडली, जब हमारे पास हमारे एम्प्लॉयज़ आ जाते हैं, जब उनको हम ऑन बोर्ड कर लेते हैं, उसके बाद भी उनके पास कीप ऑन ट्रेनिंग का फार्मूला हमारे पास हर कंपनी के अंदर मौजूद होना चाहिए कि हम उनको कंटिन्यू एजुकेशन जो है वो देते रहें। नॉट दैट कि बस हम उनसे 8 आवर्स के अंदर मैक्सिमम उनसे प्रोडक्शन पे काम करें, कम से कम 1 आवर और 2 आवर्स डेफिनेट हम उनको ट्रेनिंग्स दें और उनको मोटिवेट करें कि वो आगे पढ़ें और आगे चीज़ों को इम्प्रूव कर सकें। तो डेफिनेट हमें उनसे और प्रोडक्शन भी मिलेगी और इस तरीके से हमारी जो इंडस्ट्री है वो ग्रो भी करेगी।
Sir, मतलब आपने you made some very pertinent points, but when you said we need to start at the school level, again, mind me for being critical here, but I'm just stating facts. In our primary schools, especially after the single national curriculum, because I've seen the books myself, we're still teaching children about the floppy disk. It is so outdated. Growing up, I never used a floppy disk. So how can you expect the education curriculum? Do you have some recommendations there as well? What are the changes that need to be made?
नहीं, बेसिकली अब स्कूल्स के अंदर काफ़ी इम्प्रूवमेंट जो है वो आना शुरू हो गई हैं डेफिनेट। और इनफैक्ट बहुत सारे स्कूल में पाइथन क्लास 6 और 7 से लोगों ने स्कूल्स ने पढ़ाना शुरू कर दी हैं। ओबियसली वही वाली बात है कि स्टूडेंट से पहले हमारे पास टीचर्स अच्छे होने चाहिए। हमारे पास टीचर्स अच्छे होंगे तो हमारे पास स्टूडेंट्स अच्छे होंगे। तो डेफिनेट स्कूल्स या जो भी इंस्टीट्यूशंस टीचर्स को या इंस्ट्रक्शंस को ऑनबोर्ड लेता है तो मैं उनको हाईली रिकमेंड करता हूं कि जो उनका हायरिंग प्रोसेस है उसमें प्रोफेशनल्स को इंडक्ट करें और वो प्रोफेशनल सेलेक्ट करें कि वो टीचर्स कौन होंगे। अब होता ये कि एक स्कूल का प्रिंसिपल अगर उसको हायर करेगा और उसको खुद ही टेक्नोलॉजी का पता नहीं होगा तो वो डेफिनेट एक नॉन प्रोफेशनल को हायर करेगा और फिर वो हमारे उसी लेवल के लोगों को, बच्चों को पढ़ाएगा जिसको खुद कुछ भी नहीं आता। तो जब हमारा हायरिंग प्रोसेस है उसके अंदर इस तरीके की टेक्नोलॉजी के लोगों को इन्वॉल्व करना, बोर्ड में लोगों को इन्वॉल्व करना जरूरी है ताकि हमारे पास उसी तरीके की रिसोर्स जो है वो हमें अच्छी रिसोर्स मिल सके।
Right, absolutely. I agree. So decisions should be made on merit. Thank you, Mr. Shahqaan. Moving on, sir made some, very valid points about, what we need to do in terms of human capital. So, what is the role of the private sector, and how can they aid the government in ensuring that we have IT services progress in Pakistan?
Right. I think globally, education system is always lagging behind. The private sector is always a couple of steps ahead. Unfortunately, Pakistan maybe it's 4 or 5 steps ahead, but I think it's ahead. Where there's lack of infrastructure, where there's lack of, let's say, you talked about, you spoke about lack of connectivity in Balochistan. I'll give you an example of M-Pesa. M-Pesa is a fintech startup based out of Africa, which works completely on SMS, and it's able to complete a transaction end to end. It has enabled a lot of other startups off of it just because they enabled those transactions. So where there are challenges, by definition, there is always that opportunity, and I think we have done a fairly good job, the private sector, of capitalizing on that. But I think there's still a lot of room in fintech, in other industries, in connectivity. Elon Musk is talking about Starlink. We can do the same.
Absolutely.
Right?
So what I did really like about the point that you made was that we need to come up with indigenous solutions as opposed to just, copying what has been working globally.
Right.
Because we are a country with different states of opportunities and challenges. Sir, building up on what you said, we even keep hearing about the gap between industry-academia linkages. So let's talk about some of the university graduates or those that are in their final year. How do you think SMEs and startups in particular. Let's not talk about the big corporations. But what role do you think SMEs and startups can play in industry and academia linkages?
I think it's unfortunate, and it's not just, again, it's not just in Pakistan, I think it's true globally, that the people who should be teaching never bother to do so. I think as SMEs who've been in the industry, work day in and day out on problems from around the world, I think we should be the ones going back to the universities and trying to contribute in whatever fashion we can. So for example, a couple of years back, I think NUS did one thing really well. They invited all of the industry folks to help them create the curriculum. I'm not sure what the follow-up on that has been, but I think that was one good step. On whatever time anyone can commit, we try to do something for the academia, because eventually we reap the benefits of it, right? If someone has been well educated, it helps us onboard them quicker, get more value out of them, and eventually at some point, I think I wish to do the same for myself. At some point, I think we should go back to the university and teach whatever we have learned and contribute in that fashion.
I think that's a brilliant point that you've made. Thank you for that. My next question is for Mr. Mudasser Abbas, the CEO of VizzWeb. Sir, so from the lens of an investor that wants to invest in Pakistan, and especially in the IT services sector, could you identify some of the sectors or perhaps areas in which the opportunities lie?
Okay. International perspective se, we can say there are so many opportunities here, but for that, what's happening that we, first of all, we have to send our delegations, we have to clear our image, you know, the image perspective, we are still lacking, right? And I have seen that in the last 2-3 years, different like Pasha, PSEB and government perspective, they start sending the delegations to different conferences, which is definitely, it was a very good, like I was in Gitex and the tech destination has a very good stall and launch there, which is just the purpose of to attract the international investors as well. And because 62% in Pakistan SMEs has issue with the finance, because when we talk about the researches, their number one issue is finance, because finance to the large companies, the banks are giving the finance to the large companies, not to the SMEs here due to some reason. So definitely they are facing the financial issues. And that issue is being resolved by the US by the crowdfundings, by getting the investment from Germany, from different countries they get the investment, and they have raised the SMEs percentages 200% in the last 2 years. And same in the Europe, the 38% they have raised by getting the international investment. But their methodologies are very important too, right? They go for the crowdfunding, they go for incubation centers, which we are lacking. And the very important thing, the clients I'm working with, they go for the ICO and IDO, which is definitely we can't do here, the cryptocurrencies. Some of the projects we launch, which was hard to, you can say, the raised fund, and by the launching the token, we raised $22 million within 4 hours.
Wow,
by launching the token.
That deserves a round of applause.
Yeah. So
$22 million.
Yeah, so those are the kind of things definitely we have to adopt and attract the international peoples and make it easy for them. And also, as you said about the private sectors has to do the contribution and they have to back that, because I have seen internationally for the utilities, for supporting startups, without caring about they are going to become successful or not, they are still backing their communities. And that's happened through these kind of communities, which they started 10, 15 years before, right? So they build the communities who support to the incubator startups, who support to the small businesses, and then they grown up. And also they give the royalty basis things. Sorry, maybe it's going long.
That's okay.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I hope that was the answer.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing those insights with us. My next question is for Mr. Mohammed Hussain from Boundless Technologies. Sir, because I've been working with the international markets and especially with IPOs, one of the two of the areas in which investors see room for improvement within Pakistan is quality and security of the IT services that are provided, meaning how can we improve in these areas?
Normally, the main problem is the commitment and time. जो प्रोजेक्ट्स हम बाहर से अर्न करते हैं उसमें हम बहुत ज़्यादा क्वालिटी कॉम्प्रोमाइज़ होती है और टाइमली कमिटमेंट्स नहीं होते. तो डेफिनेट जो फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटीज़ हैं हम लोगों की, उसको अगर हमें इंटरनेशनल मार्केट से कम्पीट करना है तो नंबर 1 द क्वालिटी और नंबर 2 द टाइमली डिलीवर. ये बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट हैं दो, जिनकी वजह से हमें बहुत ज़्यादा लॉसेज होते हैं और हमारी कंपनी जो है वो जो प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं उनमें मिलने में हमें बहुत ज़्यादा जो है प्रॉब्लम इसमें होती है. तो डेफिनेट. और सेकंड बात मैं इसमें ऐड करना चाहूँगा कि हमारी जो टेयर्स हैं उनको हमें इम्प्रूव करने की ज़रूरत है. लाइक हमारे पास जो डिलीवर कर रहा है उस तक वो चीज़ पहुँच ही नहीं पाती और जो चीज़ उसमें सेल की जाती है, यानी ऊपर जो सेल्स टीम या जो डेवलपमेंट टीम जो ऑर्डर्स को पिक कर रही है या जो डिज़ाइन कर रही है, नहीं जो प्रोजेक्ट्स ले रही है, वो नॉर्मली कनेक्टेड नहीं होती डेवलपमेंट टीम के साथ. तो उसके बाद जो गैप्स जनरेट होते हैं और हमारे पास जो प्रोसेसेस हैं वही अगेन हमारे ट्रेनिंग इश्यूज़ की वजह से कि हम कोई प्रॉपर प्रोसेसेस, कोई प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट के टूल्स, इस तरह की टेक्निक्स हमें या स्कूल्स में कॉलेजेस में पढ़ाई नहीं जाती, जिसकी वजह से वो प्रोसेस स्टार्ट टू फिनिश प्रॉपरली होता नहीं. अगर वो प्रॉपरली होता नहीं है तो डेफिनेट वो प्रोडक्ट उस तरीके से डिलीवर नहीं होता और डिलीवर नहीं होता तो डेफिनेट हमें वो प्रोजेक्ट्स में लॉसेज और प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं.
Right. Thank you so much. Mr. Shahqaan, Qasim. So, in Pakistan, there's no shortage of talent, but when we talk about the IT sector, we see a lot of developers coming in, but we don't see the same quality of, let's say, customer success, sales, maybe UI, UX, product design. So, what are some of the skills in which you feel that we need to invest in the resources so that the IT services within SMEs and startups in Pakistan can flourish?
I think that's a great point. To an extent, I think it's a factor of just where the industry is. For the past few decades, Pakistan has been primarily a software services industry, where our focus is just selling out our engineers, our development. So there has been, as a consequence of that, there has been a lot of universities that focused around that. In product, in UI UX, customer success, it's less, but it's growing. In the past 5 years, particularly after the acquisition of Kareem, when there was a lot of funding in Pakistan, you see these roles become extremely important. There aren't enough people to fill them, particularly product. I think design has also caught up a little bit, but product, nobody in Pakistan really understands what a product manager is. To an extent, even I don't know what the JD should be for a product manager, what the skill set should be, which school should he go to. So I think these are the skill set we really need to invest in. The private sector will kind of catch up itself, but universities at some point will need to figure out how to teach these things. And in these management and creative roles, Pakistan does suffer a little bit as well. We're really good at, we outsource our engineering, our doctors to across the globe, but design, and although, and it's not to say we don't have great designers, we do, celebrity designers across the world, but there's just a sheer number of people, the sheer number of engineers and doctors that we export across the globe doesn't stack up well with the other creative fields. So maybe we need to be a little more creative, a little more, what's the word I'm looking for?
So future ready, and that
right.
will take me to my next question,
right.
Perhaps for Mr. Mudasser Abbas, the CEO of VizzWeb. So again, some very valid points made, but my last question to you is, what do the mid-career professionals of today and the human capital at large in Pakistan needs to do? What are what skills need to be acquired to make us more future ready? Right.
About the skills, in international perspective, what we have to do is that we have to check the trends, and definitely in the blockchain area, in the metaverse, in AIs. In AIs, almost very few companies are working now, and in AI and machine learning, we have to adopt that. And for that, I will suggest that normally where we are lacking is that most of the companies are working service-based. They are not going for the products, right? So until they are not gonna stable the products, they are not gonna become independent. So why they go for the service model? It's easy to scale. It's like supportive, right? So what they have to do, they have to go for these latest technologies and try to innovate the new ideas in that and try to market those international products in parallel with the service model, which is supporting their financial needs and giving them the income stream to develop those kind of products as well. So I would say, if you check the salaries perspective, even in the machine learning, even in the game development, the salaries are way higher than internationally. So definitely the room is available, the salary perspective as well, right? So we have to cover those kind of areas. And IoT is definitely one thing which has a huge scope within the country as well. Right, there is a big demand which is coming in farming and in other industry in IoT. So definitely this will be a very big demand for the new startups and companies.
Right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's been a power-packed session. Thank you for your time.